Hey, this is Illusion Filmworks, and I'm Mark.
I'm Kennon. Sorry.
I'm Zach.
And this is the next installment of Have You Seen That Before? Or I've Seen That Before. Or what is it?
I've seen that movie too.
Okay.
That was
Let me
nice.
backtrack.
This is why we don't let him talk very much.
That was kind of cold, man.
That was. It's cool. I can clip it out. It's fine.
All right, and this week we are doing Stranded in Space meets Stranded at Sea. That's right, it's Gravity versus Open Water.
2, 3. What you like?
Jeez.
Open
This
water.
again.
Here we go.
I feel like this is
Here
the
we
majority
go.
of our topics.
Yes.
So let's start off with the story. For you guys, which story did you prefer? Lost in Space or Lost at Sea?
Lost in Space.
Okay, now why did you prefer the story? Like what did you think made it better than Lost at Sea?
Well, I mean, just the overall story of Gravity was just a whole lot better because, like, yeah, you can be stranded in open water, but like you have the chance of people finding you, like helicopters coming to save you. In space, it's just you. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just you, and it was just her in her little pod, like trying to figure everything out. And of course, the backstory of I believe she lost a child and everything like that. And
Right.
Did she?
She did.
That's
And
right.
what me and Kennen actually noticed, because we actually watched it.
This will be more on the technical side later,
Oh,
but we'll
that's
go.
true.
We'll
We'll
go
save
ahead
it
and
for
say
later.
it. No. Go
You
ahead
sure?
and say it. Yeah.
I don't mind saving it.
No, go.
Okay, well, I mean, what me and Kennen saw was there was this scene where she was in space and like there was no gravity and she had like her little space tubes and everything, and it literally looked like she
An
was in.
umbilical cord
Yeah, like it
and
looked
shit.
like she was,
Well,
in
that's
a belly.
theming. But that's theming though, because when you talk about the story, the camera work is involved in that, and so
Right.
basically this is her Gravity is about Sandra Bullock's character's rebirth. But the theming goes with the theming of the story goes with the camera work because
Right.
you have the scene where it looks like she's actually in a womb,
Yeah.
then her being birthed and returning and
Right.
basically starting a new life after
Right.
the event that she had to go through.
Right.
Open water, you don't really have that. It's just two people out in the water.
And to your point though, and you actually said this. You said like she felt safe. And,
Oh,
and
when
I
she
felt
got
like
into
that.
the
Right when
was
it was
the Russian ship or was it the
I
Chinese?
believe it. I don't remember
I think it was
exactly
the
which
Russian one
Yeah,
first.
but like your point was
Yeah.
she felt
Safe.
safe,
Yeah.
and for me that clicked. I was like, wow, like they really expressed this in an amazing way.
Yeah, they
with that
use the
scene.
camera, the environment to help tell the story,
Right,
which is
right.
amazing. It's awesome.
and that alone makes
Yeah.
that better than open water. You know what I mean? But
But here's another thing that I liked. Two things that I liked about the story for Open Water more than Gravity as a whole. One, I liked the fact that there were two characters in it because
There were two characters. There were three characters or four technically.
two
in
constant
Gravity.
characters in Open Water,
excuse
which
me.
were with each other constantly because you got to see their relationships change over time. You got to see when they first started out, they were a loving couple. Then you can see how that slowly broke down where she was losing it. He was trying to keep her comfortable. But at a certain point, they both seem to lose faith. And then he loses faith even more. And she has to try and elevate herself as well as him up until the point where he eventually, spoilers everybody, he dies. And then, of course, knowing what her final options are in the end, either A, get eaten by sharks, or take off her equipment and just let herself sink to the bottom, basically suicide. She knows she's going to die. She has to make that one choice versus the other. I'm sorry, I was not invested that much in Sandra Bullock's character in Gravity.
You have
as
really
compared
offended him, by the way.
oh my god,
so much offends Mark easily.
But the point is the same. Like you're talking about uncertainty, and both of them have uncertainty in them. So that's not a point. I think you more associate with Open Water because it is a more likely scenario for you.
It's
personally.
a more primal movie. It is a more
They're both.
primal.
No, they're both
Hold
primal.
on, let him elaborate.
The fear.
There is no
of,
elaboration. They're both primal.
I would say that because it is more realistic, Open Water, it taps into that fear so much more than in Gravity because it's a scenario that could actually happen. It's a scenario that did happen. It's based on a true story.
Every single moment. And then being able to relate to the movie itself. Everybody watching, everybody has had a moment in their life where they have felt alone. And that, like, being stuck out in space like that, like, come on, you would feel by yourself. And, like, how could you not relate to that?
Yeah, and plus George Clooney's character literally sacrifices himself to make sure
Clooney's character may as well have not even been in the movie.
No,
he was so insequential to that plot
not at
overall.
all. There was
Absolutely.
because there was a reason he needed to be in that movie. His
Yeah,
character
to die.
Exactly.
That was his reason to be
my
in the movie.
God.
That's the
yo.
point.
That was his
But
point.
that is the point because it enforces how alone she is. If she just
Yeah.
went up there alone, like,
But no, I mean, no, I still agree with Kennon, man. I mean, like, you're always going to have a point in your life where you feel alone. Like, no matter what, no matter how old you get, you're always going to feel like you're going to get to a point in your life where you do feel alone. And I feel like that is it. Like, that's feeling alone to the maximum level. Like,
Yeah.
you're literally out in space. Nobody can
And
come
Open
get you.
Water does
You
that
can't
too.
call anybody.
Open Water, I think, has
no,
an
Open Water does it
interesting-
too. Because the
interesting
male
dynamic.
dies before the
True.
female.
But
to
here's-
hammer home how alone she is after he dies.
Of course, but they actually start to hammer that point home before he dies, and here's why.
Okay.
When that couple starts out, they are so on the same page. They are so, we're 20-somethings, we're going on vacation,
Yeah, that was really
I
annoying.
love you
It was.
so
I
much.
did hate that so much.
And
Jesus.
then when the shit starts hitting the fan, their relationship changes. Their dynamic between each other becomes different.
Right.
They start getting on each other's nerves more. They start picking at each other.
Right.
And it plays on that. It plays on a different sort of fear than Gravity, because Gravity is more of an alone. Open Water plays more on that. You think you know somebody really well, and then you get put in a really crappy situation with
And
them,
then you learn more
and things
about 'em.
totally change.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, that's a more interesting story, because you can see how the girl starts out a lot more feminine, the guy starts out trying to be this typical macho man sort of thing, and over the course of the film, through certain events that happen, those roles sort of change until the point where when the dude has been bitten by the shark and he's sort of losing it, she has to console him while he basically breaks down and sobs in her arms during that storm in the middle of the night,
Yeah, I remember.
which is an amazing, I just love that scene where all it is it's dark, and then you hear them talking to each other, you hear the sobbing, you hear the signs, and then there's the flash of lightning and you see them, and then it's dark, and then flash of lightning and there's shark fins circling around them, and then flash of lightning and the sharks are gone, but you
Right.
know that they're still there.
Yeah.
Which I think
That's
could
what it's
bring
saying.
us into our next topic, best cinematography.
Gravity, 100%.
Oh no, yeah, dude, you can't even argue that.
That's not
you
even an
can't
argument.
argue that at all. The story. First of all, can I just say that 75% of Open Water was extreme close-ups,
Very true.
especially when not
It
effective
was
at all.
recycled shots
Not
the
at-
whole
no, man.
hour, whatever.
And
how long
it was very clear that the dude was just standing on a boat filming them.
Yeah.
Like,
Actually,
very clear.
he wasn't, because I've seen the behind-the-scenes footage, and
well,
he
he
was
looked like he was
actually
on a
in
boat.
the water with them.
He did a bad
But
job.
so what was that? Hold on, but what was that shot? Because there was a shot constantly in that movie where the camera was slightly above them. It literally looked like they were looking down
Yeah.
at them, and that's what made me feel like this dude's just on a boat, like filming them. Like,
Yeah.
you don't remember that scene?
I remember that scene.
And it's
Yeah,
did
'cause
it
that
not
was like
suck?
half the
Gives it-
movie.
but it emphasizes their aloneness out in the ocean. When you see from above these two little specks in this vast amount of empty space, which
Hang
even
on,
though
no,
it's
no, no,
full
no.
of water, it's essentially an empty space. There's, for the most part, there aren't any other boats, there aren't any other people, any other cars or anything like that. When you are lost in the middle of the ocean, it is essentially like being lost in space. You are completely isolated. And
We're back. Sorry, camera issues, guys.
Technical issues.
Yes, but leads into what we were talking about earlier, which I'm assuming it cut out somewhere around the camera work and the technical side, what we were talking about. And I was getting ready to say something. What was I getting ready
Well,
to say?
let me make a point.
You already made your point.
Maybe it will
You
spark
already-
your memory.
okay.
Maybe if I say something, it'll spark your memory.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So one point that you both made was that the quality of the camera
Which we
work
talked
is
about off
not
camera.
as great.
Trash. It's trash.
Here's the reason why. It's supposed to look like that.
No.
This whole film is structured around their basic vacation footage because they take that camera out with them. It's meant to feel. This movie is meant to feel like vacation footage that two people took out on a boat and made it feel like this was a real life thing that happened.
I think that in the process of them doing that, they really did fail. They really did fail at it.
First of all, can you prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's what the look they were going for? Because they used cinematic techniques.
Yeah, they did.
They used cinematic techniques to tell the story. Yeah. They didn't do the found footage thing, because that's pretty much what it is you're saying.
Right. That's your whole argument.
Because if they did the way you were talking about, it would have been a lot like Cloverfield.
That's true.
Where's the found footage style.
That's true.
I think that because this came out in
2005.
2005.
Right.
So, and I feel like that was around the time that digital cameras were starting to be used a lot more. I think this movie
2007, 2008 was like the big digital camera.
But that's what he's saying. Like it was right at the brink of it. Yeah, like they were just starting to get into digital.
And this movie was to prove that they could shoot on digital, because if they had to shoot on film, the budget would have gone up. Because the budget on this movie was $500,000, I believe. And I mean, it made money hand over fist, $54.6 million. But no, that's the thing. The technical part of it, like when we're talking about the budget, it's very obvious where the budget was spent for open water. Yeah, it was spent on getting them down to the Bahamas, because it was shot, I believe, in the Bahamas.
The majority of it was actually shot on location, and for like the big open ocean scenes, to keep real sharks away, because they'd have like a big cage surrounding them on the outside to make sure that they didn't have actual sharks come up and start taking bites out of people.
Right.
But at the same time, like, they also made a point in the articles that I was reading that like they made a decision to use real sharks for certain
scenes. There were a number of real sharks.
They made a decision because they ran out of money. Like, I feel like is what happened.
I don't think so. There aren't any CGI sharks in that movie. Every single shot of the shark is a real shark.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is that they used real animals because they couldn't afford CGI.
To do like CGI.
Like, this
honestly,
was before CGI really
that makes it better. Like, if there had been CGI sharks in that movie, that would have been ridiculous.
But I mean, like, I do agree with you. It probably would have been a little bit more ridiculous, but when you're talking about filming animals, you have to realize there is a certain uncertainty. As weird as that goes together.
Yeah.
There's an uncertainty about how the animals are going to act, especially sharks, because you can't train sharks.
And that's the thing that actually makes it so much good, because sharks are unpredictable. Sharks are creatures that you can't control.
What do you
mean?
The
fact that you would get
this is just us bashing.
Wild,
we're not even talking about gravity at this point.
No. This wild sort of experience from these sharks. Like there were a couple of moments in that movie where I would be watching the two of them just float, having a conversation, and then a fin would come up, and then it would just disappear, which is what a shark would do. And that was such a terrifying moment, because that is something that could actually happen. Just you're talking around, having a conversation, something pops up, and then it's gone, and they didn't even realize it was there, which makes it that much more terrifying for you as an audience member to know just how much in danger these people are without them even realizing how much they're in danger. It makes it all again comes back to that sense of this movie feels like news footage. It feels like camera crew for like Channel 34 local.
Dude, it's not even that
DVR
good.
Sort of.
It's
like these people are lost at sea, but instead of calling like a helicopter or something for them, they decided we're just gonna roll camera and see where this goes.
I feel like? I feel like they went into Walmart and just like bought whatever camera that was on sale.
They so did.
And like just started filming with that. Like, and it's insane.
We're saying the quality of the camera they shot on sucked, because that's where it comes from. And you're trying to say that it makes it, the quality of the camera makes it more interactive, so to speak. It makes it more like found footage. It makes it seem more realistic. I'm quite the opposite on that, because it distracted me the entire time. And like, if it was for the fact that they tried to do it as found footage, like Cloverfield, like so many other movies before it, Blair Witch Project, if they did it that way, I would have been totally in. I would have been in 100%. But the fact that they used cinematic storytelling techniques to tell this story and then shot it on such a crappy camera, and maybe it was, like I said, maybe it was the point to prove that they could film stuff on digital, because film at that time probably was big. I don't know, haven't confirmed it.
Right.
But there were a lot of cameras still filming on film before all of them switched to digital because digital got better.
Yeah.
So that is my point. It's that camera work was very obviously the last thing they spent money on.
Yeah. And to be quite honest, you know, me and you, we're more on the visual side. So for
That
us,
is true.
Gravity is just more pleasing to the eye.
Oh,
and maybe,
my gosh.
And maybe that has something
So much
to do
more
with
better movement. It feels like
and I think
hang on.
actually
Open
that
water
is-
feels like it cuts every like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's not much movement. The characters move, but the camera doesn't move.
Right. And it feels like they had no choice but to cut.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
like,
your eyes get
they,
bored.
They had to stay in one area. They couldn't move the characters. They couldn't move the camera. They had to move the characters.
Right.
Because they just didn't have the equipment to do that.
Right.
When, you know, we learned back in the 1920s that you can move the camera, you know,
Right.
and open water took a huge step back, you know, because they didn't move the camera because they didn't have the equipment to do it, which to me,
Honestly,
you know,
I feel that in certain situations that actually improves on the atmosphere because when you have two characters in the ocean, because the ocean's constantly moving with waves and tides and stuff, if you have the camera here and we two characters start out here,
Okay.
and we're drifting away because we're being
No,
pulled
and that's
out
perfectly
to sea
fine.
by the tides or the waves, and you see them get farther and farther away and smaller,
Right.
that adds so much to the feel of wow, these
and
people
I'm not
are
arguing
so
that point.
messed up.
I'm
right
not
now.
arguing that point because that was good cinematic storytelling. But the problem is that you can only reuse that shot so many times before you're like, oh, it's this shot again.
Right.
You know, versus Gravity, like they had a bigger budget. It helped. And it was all green screen for the most part.
I think the
But-
budget of Gravity was more than Open Water made.
I
at
think
the
it was.
box office.
Hang on, let me double check. Yeah. The budget for Gravity was $100 million.
Okay.
So
How much did it make in the box office?
Gravity?
Yeah.
$732.2 million.
Nice. The
also-
one part of that open water movie though that I did like was I think it was the scene like right after the guy had started bleeding or something like that, and then it had transitions into like you saw the water, you saw the sky, but it was completely red. And
Oh, yeah, because the sun was going down.
right,
Yeah.
but I like that because it kind of like
It
signified,
added more color than blue and gray.
Right, right, and it signified like, he really is in some deep stuff now because he's bleeding and sharks are around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of drove that point home for me. So I did like
One
that.
of the shots
about-
I really love in Open Water is after he starts bleeding, where the two characters are just floating and they're having a conversation, and the camera just goes under the waves.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
see
that was a
good
how
shot.
many
Yeah.
sharks
That was
are
excellent
That was
around.
real. I did like that.
That when I
really
first saw that,
enjoyed
I was like, "Oh my, these
But-
people are so screwed."
Right.
But see, the problem with the movie is that for every shot you have like that, you have
You had a lot
15
of
other
other
shots
shots.
that are just extreme close-ups, and,
Right.
and you know, it's them trying to get the characters to tell the story. It's not letting the action tell the story.
Right.
Which Gravity, you know, it had the characters kind of tell the stories, but the action carried with it too.
Yeah.
Like when she had the fire in the space station.
Right.
You know, and trying to read the Russian manual that she couldn't read and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, like it was just a good pacing.
Yeah,
You know,
it
and
really
camera.
was.
I can't say that enough. Yeah. Great camera movement in Gravity. It was extremely well thought out from a cinematic
From every
standpoint,
aspect,
and
from,
that's
from
why
camera
we
shots
like it.
to editing, like
You know.
I see all your points, and they're all pretty good, valid points. I would just
I feel
say
like a butt's
that
coming.
However,
combined with the more simple look with some of the shots, as well as the story overall, the two character dynamic interaction. So for me, I can admit that a lot of the cinematography in certain scenes isn't the greatest. But when you combine the stuff that does work with the feel that I think that they're going for, and that for me, I connect more with Open Water.
Yeah.
And because I connect more with it, that's the thing that I'm going to prefer. And I'm
Right.
going to say if you would prefer one versus the other, I would recommend Open Water more just for that more primal sense of
Right.
it. Those are my final thoughts. You guys have any final thoughts you want to throw out as far as...
I think I said everything I wanted to say.
Yeah, the only other thought that I want to pull or kind of address is that, like, I think as a proof of concept, Open Water is great because it was very obvious that they ran into money issues. They didn't have a very big budget.
Right.
And for an independent film, that's actually a pretty nice, sizable budget.
Right.
It's an amazing return, too, for an independent.
Incredible,
that's
incredible,
huge.
amazing.
You got to
return.
give them their props on that.
I
one. That's
will
huge.
totally give them props on that. But it does not hold up with time. That's what we talked about
Right,
last time.
right. Very
Over
good
time, it's not a film that's going to be looked back upon as fondly as like Jaws, because Jaws was made in '75, but yet you can still put it on Blu-ray, you can still put it on all this stuff, and the quality of the film doesn't degrade.
Right.
Versus once they shot it, like you can see pixelation in open water,
Right.
you can see all these problems,
And we're only a
because they
decade
were limited
after it was made. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so it's not going to hold up well after time.
Because when did it come out? 2005, right?
2005.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like 11. It's 2006.
Yeah,
so like 11
as
years.
of this recording, it's 2016. So
Okay,
over a decade.
so like over a decade, but like to your point, it's just not going to hold up well over time. You know what I mean? And I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
I would
you're good. You're
say
fine.
that
You made my point, so.
I disagree. I think it as a story, like maybe not as far as technical hold up over time, but as a base story,
the
I
concept
think
itself?
it's going to
Nope.
completely stand the test of
My
time.
comments are that I still prefer Gravity. Still think it's a better story. I don't like open water. I'm just gonna flat out say it. I think it is important if really.
Yes.
And please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure somebody will.
Wrong.
Not you. But I feel like at that point in time, it was proof of concept that digital could work.
Right.
And I think it will be a great case study for it. And I think that it will be remembered in history for that reason. But overall, as far as story goes, Gravity is the better story.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my final thoughts are, man, I still love Gravity. It's just more visually pleasing to the eye. I could get more invested in that story. Like I said before, anybody who's watching, these guys up here, we've all had a point in our life where we felt alone, and that's how it is to the maximum level, being out in space by yourself. Open water just was not pleasing to me at all. I think the story was decent, but I think the execution of it was not so great. But that's what we're going to close out on, guys. If you want to join in on the conversation, definitely subscribe to our channel and comment below and everything like that. So
If there's any movies that you think we should discuss out there, please let us know in the comments section as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Zach.
I'm Kennon.
and I'm Mark, and we'll see you next time.